The whole journey with Global Wisdom Collective was very personal for me. My mother is a traditional Chinese medical healer, an indigenous Chinese medical healer. So I am a diaspora, so I was born in the West. So I very much grew up with that medicine, and she passed on that medicine to me at a very young age. So inherently from a young age, I actually started to document her and record her. Even though that wasn't something necessarily shown to me in my environment, living out here in the West, inherently there was an apprenticeship model built in within our relationship. And so that really changed me and changed the way I look at the world. The traditional Chinese medicine, don't need to go in too much depth, but it has a very long history, but it also has history that a lot of people don't know about in the case that there was a lot of effort, a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of forces that wanted to destroy the medicine to begin with. So I think that is common amongst a lot of indigenous cultures where there's forced assimilation, westernization, and just overall destruction of land and lifeways generally. So I knew I was given a very precious gift, and that really helped me see the world in a different way. And so my experience recording her at a young age, in which I'm still doing it since it's a lineage-based medicine. So there's really not an end, so to speak, but there's always more to learn because you develop as a person. So I saw very early on the gift between a youth and an elder when there is still that apprenticeship model there, how much it changes a youth that's coming of age and how much it changes an elder that is now able to have some sort of closure in their life, to know that their teachings were passed on, respected and honored. And that's not something you see very often these days. And so that kind of sprung into more work. And so Global Wisdom Collective was founded under that foundation of intergenerational knowledge exchange and intergenerational dialogue. And so our team started coming together and we started working with Indigenous peoples, organizations and communities to find ways to catalyze these types of preservation efforts within Indigenous peoples groups. So that looks like youth recording their own elders, community-based archiving, and just really motivating the youth to return back to their own knowledge systems. And a huge foundational point that we are not willing to budge on is that we do not share the knowledge out to the Western world. So it's very much community driven and owned by the community. And unless it's given consent, we do not translate the knowledge either, so it's within the Indigenous language as well. The whole reason for this organization was that we're entering a very critical part of human history where technology is so dominant. Industrialization has already happened. There has been so much effects of colonial rule that knowledge is plentiful, but wisdom isn't, and you can't Google this. And so the things that we're recording are not things you can Google, like you're saying. We don't even really prioritize just oral stories in itself. We are prioritizing knowledge systems that are land-based. So that entails traditional ecological knowledge systems, medicinal systems, agricultural systems, astrological systems, spiritual systems, things that essentially any kind of Western influence or colonial power has tried to erase. It's essential for protecting our world and our earth. I'm not sure who the quote's from, but for every elder that dies, the library is burned. And I did have moments like that with my own mom, where she talked about her mentors and what they, our family survived genocide and famine. And so like during that lifetime and that generation, her mentors also went through a huge sacrifice to keep the medicine, literal sacrifice. So I just knew that a lot of these sacrifices were very quiet, and just like an animal goes extinct, it's very silent and quiet. And I think that unless we're really attuned to it, we're gonna miss something. One of our projects is Revitalize the Royce, Speak After Royce, and it's for the Endorois people in Kenya that have been on their land for over 400 years and were forcefully removed. And there's still a lot of work to be done on protecting those knowledge systems. So we do community listening sessions. I mean, the fancy way of just saying we're driving by and asking elders, hey, we're doing this, like, what do you all think? Yeah. We go through the formal channels, if there are one around their biocultural protocols on protection, and we get the prioritization from the communities. They tell us who to talk to, they tell us who to prioritize when it comes to recording. Yeah. But the end goal is to build some sort of archive, and that is again informed by the community. Some of them want archives, some of them do not. And then it's a matter of like who within the community can manage it, who gets access to it, etc. So all those little steps are things that we work on with each community, but that's not a one-size-fits-all at all, because some communities prefer this, some communities prefer something different.
Yeah.
Working with communities that are still on their ancestral land is very different than working with communities that are now in the diaspora and that no longer have access to their land. Their knowledge systems are different, their access to elders is different, the types of topics they want to prioritize is different. So it's case by case. There's just a lot with identity, and there's a lot with youth claiming pride again in their language, and feeling like what they came from matters, maybe more so than what you can just find in an internet or chat GPT these days.
Exactly.
You know, a lot of our elders have very hard lives, so to have that as like something that we can be able to say, yes, we stood by you, we wanted to know, and the things that you've accumulated in your life isn't going to go to waste.
Yeah.
And for them to really feel that and to see it happen in the way that the exchanges happen, I think is very fulfilling. So to me, that's a success. Of course, the building of the archives in whatever form that's agreed upon is always a success, but also just the desire to continue is also a success. No matter what changes are happening, the Indigenous people's rights movement is still happening and is still going. So we're contributing to that. We're still recording our elders. We're still building our community archives. We're still working with the organizations and communities that we're partnered with to ensure that this work continuously is prioritized. So the work is still continuing. We're not going to give up.
Definitely.